بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Inshallah, we're on Hadith number 12. We're going to do 12 and 13 today, inshallah. And I want to get some of these younger boys involved in the reading. You know who you are. So, inshallah, I'll read the Arabic. And I'm going to pick someone to read the English. Inshallah, one of the younger boys, so they can be involved and participate, inshallah. The first hadith, hadith number 12, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا وقع الذباب في شراب أحدكم فليغمسه ثم لينزعه فإن في أحد جناحيه داء وفي الآخر شفاء. رواه الإمام البخاري والإمام أبو داود. طيب, who has a book from the younger guys? Abdullah, you have a book? Can you read the English for us, please?
Narrated by Abu Hurairah, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if a fall flies in the drink of one of you, he should fully immerse it, then throw it away, because there is a disease in one of the wings and a cure in the other. From Al-Bukhari.
طيب. And there's an addition here at the end of the hadith. زاد أبو داود إنه يتقي بجناحه الذي فيه الداء. Can you read that extra part at the end?
It protects itself with the diseased wing.
Yeah, it protects itself with the wing that has a disease in it. So this hadith, first of all, it's talking about a fly. Okay, we've had a hadith about cats and dogs and sea creatures, locusts. We've had hadith about different types of animals because animals affect the purity of things. And the fly is one of the most insignificant creations of Allah, according to us. You know, we don't pay any attention to flies except when they bother us. We don't care if they eat or if they're safe or like other animals like cats, birds. We take care of them. But flies, according to human beings, are one of the most insignificant creatures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. Yet, there's a hadith about it. And there are also ayat that mention the word fly. And those of you who want to look in your mushaf, if you have your phone or whatever, open up to Surah Al-Hajj. That's Surah number 22, ayah number 73. Surah Al-Hajj. Surah number 22, ayah number 73. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the fly, where He says, يا أيها الناس ضرب مثل فاستمعوا له. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O people. And this is for Muslims and non-Muslims. يا أيها الناس is for all people. يا أيها الذين آمنوا is for Muslims. يا أيها الناس, O people, is for Muslims and non-Muslims, everyone. ضرب مثل فاستمعوا له. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give you an example of something, so listen to it. Now the whole Quran is to be listened to. But when Allah says فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ, listen to this, you should pay extra attention. And there's extra lessons to be taken from it. ضُرِبَ مَثَلٌ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ لَا يَخْلُقُونَ ذُبَابًا وَلَوْ اجْتَمَعُوا لَهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about tawheed and shirk. And that is the most important thing for us to pay attention to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, listen to this Because what he's speaking about is the most important thing in your life. Tawheed and shirk. Worshipping Allah and worshipping nothing else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those whom you call on besides Allah, meaning those who you worship besides Allah, those who you supplicate to besides Allah, those who you pray to besides Allah, those things that people pray to besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have absolutely no power. And they cannot even create a fly, even if they got together and worked together and put their minds together. They could not even create a fly. And a fly is, according to what we said, it's a very insignificant, simple creation in comparison to other creations, other greater creations like human beings and other animals and the earth and the sun and the stars and everything in the earth. So Allah says they can't even create a fly even if they come together and work together upon this. So this ayah shows how insignificant a fly is, and that's one of the simplest creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even being the simplest creation, it's still a great creation. Okay, because of how small it is and what the hadith is going to teach us about the fly. Okay, so even a fly, it's mentioned in the Quran and in the ahadith. So back to the hadith. If a fly falls in your drink, then the Prophet ﷺ said you dip it in completely, because in one of its wings there is the disease and the other wing has the cure. Okay? This hadith is used by non-Muslims and some Muslims to attack Islam. Okay? How can you believe in something like this? Is what they say. How can you believe that a fly has a disease in one wing and the cure in the other wing, and your Prophet is telling you if it falls in your drink, dip it all the way in so you get both of them and they cancel each other out? This hadith is used to attack Islam, and regardless of what they say, as Muslims, the most important thing in our deen is our iman. And we believe in this because it's from Rasulullah. So as long as the chain of narration is authentic, what comes after it, we believe in. Okay, no matter what science says. Now sometimes science will confirm, or not confirm, come along and agree with what the Quran says. In that case, it increases our iman, or it increases our yaqeen, our certainty that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we don't wait for science to prove it so we can start believing in it. We believe in it from the beginning, whether science proves it or not. When science does prove it, then it increases us in yaqeen and certainty that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even without that science, we still believe in it 100%. So science is not always going to be right. Science is not always going to be correct. If you look at the past, the people had the same Quran we have today. And the Quran has things that talk about science that they did not know in the past, like the stages of the fetus in the mother's womb, the cycle of the weather, the rain, and other things that science did not know back then. So maybe some people rejected the Quran because those things were strange to them. That how can that be? Because they didn't believe in the Quran, and science was not advanced enough at that time, so they rejected the Quran. But as time went on, science discovered these things that are in the Quran. Okay, so maybe today some things that science says is not true, but maybe or it doesn't go along with the Quran, but maybe in the future they will discover things that Allah said in the Quran 1400 years ago. They will finally realize that it is true with the advancement of science. But either way, this is our deen. Okay, we believe it regardless of what science says, and if science does match with it, does talk about it, then it only increases us in yaqeen of our deen, because our deen is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that created these things, and the one that created the brains of these scientists. Okay? So Allah created what they're researching and created them also, but they have not realized that yet if they're not Muslim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to what's best for us and guide those non-Muslims to Islam. طيب, back to the hadith. Inshallah, we're going to do things a little bit different today. And we're going to do a little exercise to get your brains working. Inshallah, to exercise your brains a little bit. And we've had some experience now with some of these ahadith. So you have a little bit of exposure to the words of the Prophet ﷺ and how the ulama, the scholars, take rulings from these ahadith. So we're going to look at this hadith, and I'm going to give you a ruling. I'm going to mention a ruling that is taken from the hadith, and I want you to take a few minutes and look in the hadith and tell me where in the hadith we took that from. What word or what phrase, like this. Okay, so I'm going to give you a ruling that's taken from this hadith, and I want you to show me where it's extracted from, what word or what phrase. So I'm going to say it, and don't shout out any answers. Take a few minutes and raise your hand. We want to get everyone involved, inshallah. So I'm going to say the hadith again. If a fly falls in your drink, or in the drink of one of you, then you should dip the fly all the way in and then throw the fly out, because there is the disease in one of the wings of the fly and the other wing has the cure. طيب, one ruling we get from this hadith is that if a fly falls in water, the water is pure. If a fly falls in water, the water is pure. Where do we get that from in this hadith? What word, what phrase? Look at it, inshallah. Take a minute. Where do we get that from in the hadith? Yes, this hadith of the fly. Only this hadith. Don't bring another hadith, don't bring an ayah. We're looking at this hadith. If the fly falls in the water is pure. It's not najis. It's not filthy. It's pure. It can still be used. If you know, raise your hand. Okay, we've got some more hands coming up. Ready? Saqib?
Because it doesn't say anything about the water or the drink being najis. It doesn't say anything about impurity, because you just throw the fly out. And if it was impure, it would have said something about not consuming the drink, no longer using the water, whatever is in the drink.
Okay. Anyone want to add to it? You're almost, you're there, inshallah, but I want to know what word or what phrase from the hadith tells us the water is pure. Nisbay?
It's used the word drink, that means we are allowed to drink that water. If it's impure, we will not drink it.
Say that again?
It says also by dipping it first in a drink, means it's the water that is to be drink. You need to drink it.
So what's the word you're using or the phrase?
Dipping it first in a drink?
Yes. Dipping it in. Dipping the fly in is the Prophet ﷺ telling us that the water is not becoming impure, because he would not tell you to dip it in the water if the water would become filthy. Okay? So فَلْيَغْمِسْهُ, dip the water in. The Prophet ﷺ is not going to tell you to further put something impure into your drink. Okay? So dip it into your drink completely is telling us that the water is pure, or whatever it is, the juice, the tea, the coffee, or the soup. So that is telling us that the water is pure. Yes.
يغمسه.
Yes. فَلْيَغْمِسْهُ.
That's the one.
That's the wording. Understand, everybody? Okay, the next one is the fly is a pure creature. It's not a filthy creature or animal. The fly is a pure and unfilthy creature. Where in the hadith do we get the ruling that the fly is a pure creature? Ahmed? وفي الآخر شفاء. And the other one has a cure. Possible, but not exactly what we're looking for. Asim?
The same thing, dipping in the water.
Same thing. Dipping it in the water. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ is telling you to dip it in the water, means it's not a najis animal or creature. Otherwise, he would not tell you to dip it further into the water. طيب, next one. It is haram to eat flies. It is haram to eat flies. Where do we get that from in this hadith? Zach?
When it says throw it away.
When he says throw it out. Okay? ثُمَّ لِيَنْزِعْهُ. So, the Prophet ﷺ telling you to throw it out is showing that it is not permissible to eat that fly.
Throw
Throw
it away.
it away.
ثم
ثُمَّ لِيَنْزِعْهُ. Yes. Understand, everyone? طيب, next one. This hadith, these rulings are for liquids only, not for solid foods. Okay, this ruling of dipping the fly in is for liquids, not for food. So if it goes on your food, you don't squish it around in your food, because it's going to make a mess.
take it out. Just take it out. Food.
So this hadith is specific to liquids. Where do we get that from in the hadith? This one's pretty...
Sharabi.
Falls in your drink. Okay, if the fly falls in your drink, fi sharabi ahadikum. Okay, so it's water, juices, tea, coffee, or soup, because soup is watery. So anything liquid like that, this hadith applies to that. So again, if it falls in food, you do not dip it into your food. Yes, Hamza? Can we eat other bugs? No, you can't eat bugs. The only thing you can eat is locust and jarad. Okay? You can ask Baba about that later. It's like a grasshopper. You know a grasshopper? It's a big grasshopper. Okay? طيب. طيب, next one. It is permissible to kill something if it's going to harm you. It's permissible to kill something if it's going to harm you, or if it has some type of harm in it. Anybody else? Yes.
So it says dip it inside and then pull it out. That means it's dead by the time you take it out.
Yeah, if you dip it in, it's going to die. Okay? And this shows that it's permissible to kill something if it's going to harm you somehow. And it has harm in it. Okay? One of the wings has a poison. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling you to dip it in. It's going to die when you dip it in, but you're going to get the cure in there, and it's protecting you from the harm. Okay, so if something is harmful to you or to someone else, some type of animal or creature or a bug, it's permissible, okay, to kill it to protect yourself from that harm. طيب, the next one is a little bit tricky, the last one. a little bit tricky, and it's not taken from any of the words of the hadith. It's taken from something else. And that the ruling is that this ruling applies to other bugs. Not the ruling of dipping, the ruling of the purity of other bugs. Just like the fly is pure, and other bugs or insects like this are also pure. Where do we get that ruling from? It's not directly from this hadith, but it is and it's not. It's something we studied in the first or second class. Any Hanafis here? Sister, yes? Yes, from qiyas, analogy. Okay, we take it from qiyas. Something has the same qualities of something that's mentioned in a hadith, it takes the same ruling. Okay, so the scholars have made qiyas upon other insects like ants, spiders, other types of bees, that if it falls in your drink, it doesn't mean you dip it. We're not talking about dipping, we're talking about it's pure. If it falls in your drink, you just take it out and your drink is still halal. It doesn't mean you have to drink it. You don't have to drink it. Some people will feel, not good if there's a bug in their drink. They're going to throw everything out. But the point is it's halal. It's okay and it's pure. So the scholars say that other insects that are similar to the fly, meaning they don't have running blood. These insects don't have blood. Okay? So the reason why dead animals that are not slaughtered are haram, because of the blood in them, it stays in the body. The main reason is because of the blood that stays in the body and the blood does not come out. That's what makes a dead animal that wasn't slaughtered haram. Okay, so these insects, mosquitoes also, yes.
Mosquitoes has blood when you kill them.
It has not its blood. Okay, it has other blood from other creatures or people, but it itself, the ulama, they say the mosquitoes also. So the qiyas is what is used to also get rulings from these ahadith. Okay? So inshallah that gives you a little bit of exercise, brain work, to see how to look at every word, every phrase, or how the scholars do it, and they take rulings from these ahadith. This hadith also shows the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how He creates. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of creating so many varieties of insects with many different, and creations with many different qualities. Okay? And this creature, Allah gave it the disease and the cure in one animal. And one small, tiny insect, He gave it a disease, and they're probably just tiny millimeters or smaller than that apart. Okay, the whole animal is very small. So the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how He creates, and that you can have something beneficial and something harmful in one creature. You can get benefit from it and you can get harm from it, like this. Also like the honeybee. What's the benefit of the honeybee?
Honey, produce honey.
The honey. What harm can the honeybee do to you? It can sting you. Okay, so it has a harm for you, and it has a very great benefit. That is honey, one of the most purest, most beneficial foods. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of creating anything, and this should not be something that gives us any type of doubt about our deen. Because if we believe Allah created us human beings that have brains and minds and hearts and feelings and emotions, Allah is capable of creating us. We look at ourselves every day in the mirror. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala...
Anybody's daughter might get hurt. Whose child is it?
Who's that, Shaymat? She's back there? Her father's there. He's okay. She's fine. She's like her father. She touches a lot of things and breaks them.
You doing that? Okay.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the wisdom in His creation and the ability to create anything is limitless. So this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it also shows the completeness of the Sharia. And we all mention this in almost every dars, that how Islam is a complete way of life and how it came to purify our hearts, our souls, our bodies, and the food and drinks we eat. That it's even guiding us on how to keep our food pure and our drinks pure. طيب inshallah, the next hadith, hadith number 13. عن أبي ليث الواقدي رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما قطع من البهيمة وهي حية فهو ميت ما قطع من البهيمة وهي حية فهو ميت رواه الإمام الترمذي والإمام أبو داود. Who wants to read this one, inshallah? Someone else? We'll give Abdullah a break. You want to read it? Okay, you're going to be loud? Okay.
Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whatever portion is cut off from an animal while it is alive is dead meat. Recorded by Abu Dawud and
Hasan. Okay, good. Whatever is cut off from an animal while it is alive is referred to as mayta. It is dead. Okay, this hadith is in Abu Dawud, and the hadith is in the book of Imam At-Tirmidhi, and Imam At-Tirmidhi graded it as Hasan. Whatever is cut off from a live animal is dead. This hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said these words for a reason, and that is when he came to Medina in the Hijrah, he found the people there, they used to cut off the humps of the camels while the camel was alive. They would cut off the hump and use it for medicine or the fat from it or cooking with it. They would cut off the hump of the hump that is on the back of the camel. They would also cut off the tails of the sheep. The tail of the sheep, it's has a lot of fat in it, and they use it for cooking. They use the fat for cooking and boiling, and they also used to use it for some types of medicine. So the Prophet ﷺ saw that they would do this. They would cut off parts of the animal while it is alive. So he said, مَا قُطِعَ مِنَ الْبَهِيمَةِ وَهِيَ حَيَّةٌ فَهُوَ مَيِّتٌ. So if you cut off a part of an animal while it is alive, that part you take off is mayyit. It's considered dead. You cannot eat it. It's najis. It is impure, and it is filthy, impure, najis. Okay? The animal's still alive, but you took a part of it off of it, so that becomes mayyit. Okay? And the mayyit, the ruling is that it takes the same ruling as if that animal was dead without slaughtering. So if you cut off the foot of a sheep, it takes the same ruling as if that sheep died without slaughtering. That means it's haram and najis, impure. Okay? If you cut off part of a fish, okay, it takes the same ruling as if the fish died without slaughtering, and that is halal. Okay, dead fish are halal. Okay, so if you cut off part of a fish while it's alive, that part is halal and tayyib, because the fish itself is halal and tayyib if it was found dead. Okay, same thing with, what's the same thing as seafood?
Any sea animal or something?
Any sea animal. What takes the same ruling as a sea animal? One other creature. Locust. Okay, al-hut wal-jarad. Al-jarad, the locust, has the same ruling. if a part of the locust is taken off while it's alive, that part is halal and tayyib, because the locust is halal and tayyib if it was found dead.
Same thing with shrimp.
Shrimp is seafood. Yeah, same thing. Shrimp is seafood. All seafood is halal if found dead. And any part taken from it is also halal and tayyib, it's pure. And the hadith is talking about the parts of the animal that will harm it and cause it pain if you cut it off. Okay, it's not talking about the hair or the wool. It's not talking about the nails or whatever, or the horns. It's talking about parts of the animal that will harm it and cause it pain if you cut that part off. So it's haram to cut off a part of an animal, especially if you're doing it for fun or without any reason, just for games, to torture an animal, even worse. Okay? But even if you are not, if you're going to cause it pain by taking one of its body parts off, then it is haram to do that. If it's an animal that is halal to eat, then you just slaughter the animal and then you use what you need from it. Okay, you slaughter it the Islamic way. You're able to eat the meat and use the other parts of it as you want. طيب. This hadith is in the chapter of water. Why is this hadith in the chapter of water? Most other hadith mention something about water, an animal touching water, an animal falling in water. This is the last hadith in the chapter of water. Why is this hadith? Why did the author, the Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, mention this hadith in the chapter of water? If a part of an animal is cut off from it while it's alive, that part is mayyit. That part is considered dead. Why would he put this in the chapter of water? Anybody in the back? Anybody in the front? No, nobody in the front. Anybody in the middle? Front row is taking up all. Yes, brother.
Is it because you differentiated between the land and the sea animal? Or is that
Because we differentiated between the land and the sea animal?
in terms of the mate part? Like when you're slaughtering like one part of the animal, if you do it for the fish, it's halal. If you do it for the land animal, it's haram.
That's not the reason, nope, but it's a good try, inshallah. Musa, has your hand up? Looks like it. Yes, sister.
Is it because of hadith number 11? To just add to that?
What's hadith number 11?
So that's when I was talking about the two types of livestock halal and oh, sorry.
Nope. Good try though. Think about the hadith of the dog. If a dog licks your food or plate, think of that hadith. Zach.
So if that part that you cut off touches your water, or you have to rinse it out or something, or whatever, wash off the remaining blood, or then the rest of it's impure.
Yes. So if the part that's cut off, we said is mayyit, that means it's najis, it's impure. If that part touches water or drink, that water becomes najis if it changes one of its qualities. It has to change one of its qualities, the smell, the taste, or the color. Okay, so this thing that we took off from the animal is najis, so you have to be careful. Don't let it touch your water or your food or your clothes or something. Otherwise you would have to throw out that water if it changes, or you would have to wash your clothes or your body if it touches it. So it's what the part of the animal will do to your water. Okay, so that's why he mentioned it in this chapter. طيب, any questions from these two hadith? Yes.
Yes, the bees that you mentioned is pure, it is, but if it's in the filthy area where, there's a lot of time in the countries where people are inhabiting in a place where the area is in a slum area, and the bees goes into the najas and then come back, and it goes in your water. So it touches the impurity on the ground, and then it comes back on the water.
Yeah.
In that case,
First of all, it's very hard to determine that because these things are so tiny. But the bee is still tayyib. So it's just like you taking your finger and putting it in something filthy and then touching something else. It doesn't mean you're impure. What's on your finger is impure. So the same thing with the bee. If it's in impurities, but you're not really going to know that because it's so small and you're not really going to see these things. Also the fly. The fly is known to land on impure things and stay there and eat from it. But still, the hadith shows that the fly itself is not an impure creature. Okay, it might live or prefer to go on impurities, but the creature itself is not impure. It's a pure creature because the Prophet ﷺ said, dip it fully in the water. Yes?
Is the rest of the animals still halal?
Excuse me?
Is the rest of the animals still halal?
Which animal?
If we cut off the...
Yeah, the rest of the animal is still alive. It's still alive. It hasn't died. It's talking about live animals that you cut off a part of it. That animal is still halal and tayyib if it's a pure creature because it's still alive. Any other questions? Yes.
Are you allowed to kill spiders if you don't see any evident threat at the moment, but it might crawl in your mouth when you sleep or something?
Yeah, if you think it's going to harm you one way or the other, even if it's not attacking you, if you're not under attack, you can still kill it if you think it's going to harm you or your family or your kids. These are things that everyone is disgusted of, so to say, or scared of, spiders.
There is a saying,
Creatures like that.
قتل المؤذي قبل الإيذاء. There is a saying.
قتل المؤذي قبل الإيذاء. Yes.
I don't know if it's a hadith, but
I
it's
don't
a
know.
very famous saying.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a hadith. So if you think it's going to harm you, and it's a creature that can harm you, like something that can bite you or sting you, but it's not messing with you right now, you can still kill it to prevent any future harm to yourself or your family. But if it's something like an ant, ants, there's some fire ants that are pretty ruthless. They bite, they have a strong bite, but those are rare. But your typical house ant, they're not really harmful. They're actually helpful. They kill roaches and they remove roaches from the house and spiders and ants are like an army. So something like that that's not really harmful, you just leave it out or take it and put it somewhere else. Take it from your house. Even a spider. Not all spiders are have venom or whatever or are deadly. If you can take it out of your house, it's better than killing it. Just put it in something and take it far away outside and just let it go instead of killing it. But if you think it's harmful, then it's permissible to kill it. طيب, inshallah. Last one.
Some of these they eat when that's cut off while the animal's alive. Is the law not accepted for some number of things, or are they impure?
If you eat the part that you cut off from the animal, I don't know of anything that your salah is not accepted, but you are falling into sin. You're falling into sin by disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet, and by eating something impure that can be harmful for you. Okay, as far as salah not being accepted, I don't know anything of that.
What was the question?
She said, if you do eat that part that was cut off from the animal, which is haram, she said, is there anything that says your salah is not accepted or something like that? طيب, inshallah.